From the moment Arlen Crow stepped into the sunlit café that morning, he knew something in his life was about to shift, but he didn't expect the kind of shift that rattles a man's heart to its core. He didn't expect to feel his breath catch when he saw the young woman by the window, motionless from the waist down, hands folded neatly on her lap, eyes distant yet burning with a quiet kind of strength, and he definitely didn't expect to learn he had been tricked into meeting her. But destiny has a strange way of finding the cracks in a man who believes he's beyond repair. If you believe in kindness, hope, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soft Voices to help stories like this reach more hearts. Arlen was a single father of a 7-year-old boy named Rowan, a bright, sensitive child who carried far more worry than a kid his age should. They had lost Arlen's wife, Maren, in a sudden accident 2 years earlier, and every day since had been a quiet battle. Arlen worked long hours at the auto shop, trying to keep his world stitched together, but grief clung to him like a heavy coat he couldn't remove. His friend Theo claimed he needed to start living again. Arlen always brushed him off, until this morning when Theo practically shoved him toward the cafe, insisting he meet someone important. Arlen had no clue that Theo had set him up on what he called a friendly blind date. He would have refused if he knew. He wasn't ready. He wasn't capable. But life didn't ask him what he was ready for. The girl by the window was named Kyla Morell, and from a distance she looked impossibly delicate, like a porcelain figure placed too close to the light. But the closer Arlen got, the clearer it became that delicacy had nothing to do with weakness. Kayla carried an aura of resilience, a calm born of storms she survived silently. When Arlen realized she was deaf, when she didn't respond to his greeting until he tapped lightly on the table, he felt a twist of surprise. And when he saw the wheelchair beside her, he felt something even heavier inside him, not pity, but the overwhelming urge to understand how this woman still looked so full of light. Arlen sat down awkwardly, unsure how to communicate, unsure why he was even there. He didn't know sign language. He didn't know how to navigate this kind of meeting. He didn't know how to navigate much of anything anymore. But Kyla smiled gently, taking out her tablet to type. Her fingers moved with graceful ease, and he found himself strangely mesmerized. She explained she had lost her hearing 3 years earlier to a severe infection, and her ability to walk had been taken months later by a spinal condition no doctors could reverse. Yet her smile never faded as she spoke. Arlen couldn't remember the last time someone's presence made him feel so settled, even in silence. As the daylight poured through the massive cafe windows, warming the wooden tables, Arlen felt himself opening up in a way he hadn't planned. He talked about Rowan, about the struggles of fatherhood, about the guilt he still carried for not being able to save his wife. Kayla listened intently, eyes soft, expression thoughtful, and her typed responses radiated empathy instead of judgment. She told him she believed loss didn't break people, it revealed the parts of them capable of extraordinary love. Arlen had never heard anything like that before, and it rested in his chest long after their coffee turned cold. But when Theo showed up at the cafe later, looking smug and far too proud of himself, everything shattered. Arlen realized the truth. This wasn't a casual meeting. Theo had orchestrated this, assuming Kayla and Arlen would connect because both had suffered. Arlen felt betrayed, angry, embarrassed, and ashamed for letting himself enjoy the company of someone he thought had chosen to meet him freely. He apologized abruptly, stumbling over his words, backing away from the table. Kayla's face fell, not dramatically, but in a small, heartbreaking way that made something inside him twist painfully. She typed one last message before he left. "You don't have to be afraid of being seen." Arlen walked out anyway. He tried to bury the moment, chalking it up to Theo's poor judgment and his own foolishness. But Kayla's words followed him everywhere. In the echoing garage, in the quiet hum of his truck, in the soft breathing of his sleeping son. For days, Arlen wrestled with guilt he didn't quite understand. He wasn't cruel, but he had walked away from someone who listened to him more deeply than anyone had in years. It was Rowan who unknowingly pushed him back toward the truth. One afternoon, Arlen overheard his son whispering to a picture of his late mother, saying he wished Dad would smile again, even just once. The innocence of it broke Arlen in half. That night, Kayla's last message replayed in his mind like a whisper from somewhere he had forgotten existed. Being seen, maybe that was what he feared most. The next morning, under a pale blue sky streaked with sunlight, Arlen returned to the cafe. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might rip apart. Kayla sat in the same place as before, sipping tea, unaware of his presence until he gently tapped the table again. Her eyes widened, surprise rippling across her features, followed by caution, followed by hope so fragile he felt terrified of breaking it. Arlen apologized, not in clipped words, but in a quiet, raw explanation of everything he had been holding back. He told her he wasn't ready the first time, but he wanted to understand now. He wanted to try. He wanted to be better even if he didn't know how yet. Kayla listened in silence, her gaze unwavering. Then she typed something that made his breath stop entirely. "I wasn't tricked into meeting you. I asked Theo to bring someone who needed kindness as much as I did. I choose who I meet. I chose you." The words hit him with such force that he had to sit down. All the walls he had built around himself started to crumble in slow, trembling pieces. She wasn't a victim of Theo's plan. She had agency, strength, and intention, and she saw something in Arlen he couldn't yet see in himself. She explained she lived every day with the awareness that life had taken so much from her, but she refused to let it steal her chance to connect. She believed two broken people could help each other stand, even if one of them couldn't use their legs. That moment cracked Arlen open. Over the next weeks, he visited her regularly. They learned to communicate. He began studying sign language after Rowan insisted on joining him, and the boy became the quickest learner of them all. The cafe employees grew used to seeing them laughing together in soft gestures and typed messages. Arlen found himself smiling. Genuine, deep, unforced smiles that felt like sunlight warming a long frozen river. Kayla's presence became a balm to the parts of him he thought would always ache. But the moment that changed everything came one golden afternoon when Kayla typed something that made Arlen's eyes fill instantly. She wrote that she had always feared no one would see past her silence or her wheelchair, that people saw her limits before her heart. But Arlen, she said, made her feel like she was still allowed to belong in a world that once walked away from her. And then she wrote the words that shattered him completely. "You make me feel like I am still worth choosing." Arlen cried, not quietly but deeply, uncontrollably, in the middle of that sunlit cafe where strangers pretended not to stare. He cried because he realized that Kayla wasn't just healing him, they were healing each other. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soft Voices so more people can experience stories that remind us of compassion and love. Special request, comment. I believe in gentle hearts if this story reached you today. In the end, Arlen didn't just find hope. Again, he found someone who spoke to him without sound, who stood with him without standing, who rebuilt him without ever asking for anything except honesty. And Kayla, in choosing him, taught him the most powerful truth of all. Love doesn't depend on perfection or convenience or certainty. Sometimes it is found in silence, in brokenness, in two souls learning to rise together beneath the warmth of an ordinary morning sun.